Good evening. Welcome to the Danvers Conservation Commission meeting for October the 8th, 2020. We operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. As we go through the agenda, each applicant will have a chance to present his or her request, and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project. We will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address first. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all of the meeting attendees. This includes members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, property owners, and project applicants. Those who do not act in a civil manner or in a rude and violent manner will be asked to leave the meeting. That being said, I'm going to take a roll call of the members, and we will proceed from there. First up is Vanessa Curran.
So Peter, she's having her computer froze, but she'll be logging on shortly.
Okay, so we expect Vanessa, and when she does log in, we will just note that she is here. Michael Spillane.
Present.
Ann McGill.
Present.
Ken Wally. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Georgia Pendergast.
Present.
David Fields.
Present.
Alyssa Lenahan.
Present.
Just taking a step back to the members of the board, I've omitted myself, Peter Wilson. I am present. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond when I call your name. Mary Iapaka from 6 Pineapple Lane. Mary, I'm presuming that was you?
Peter, why don't you call that name one more time, just in case?
Mary Iapaka. Isn't she who we just spoke to 2 seconds ago?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, we'll move on. If she comes in, we'll check. Bill Manuel. Bill, if you're responding, Bill, your phone is muted.
Can anybody hear me?
There we go.
That's going to be difficult for a presentation. All right, Bill, could you mute your phone, please? Okay, good evening. This open meeting of the Danvers Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consisting of Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings held in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening remotely via the WebEx app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. The meeting business ground rules. I see Vanessa's signed in, so if we could just note that Vanessa is here. Supporting materials must have been provided by members of this body and will be shown during this transmission. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Ground rules for the meeting. We're going to now turn to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair would go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, we have established an email address for public comment, which is publiccomments@danversmass.gov. This email address is shown online with the streaming of this meeting. Residents may email comments and they will be provided read out loud after the staff has confirmed the name and address. All email must contain the date and the phrase Conservation Commission in the subject line. We have also established a phone line for public comment. You may call 978-777-0001 extension 2 to provide comment. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Moving on to the agenda, the first order of business I'm going to say is that we have two continuances tonight. The first, 55 Wenham Street, is continued to our 1022 meeting, and 188 Elliott Street has been continued to our 1022 meeting as well. So if anyone's here for those, we are not going to be discussing those tonight, so feel free to check out if you'd like. Moving on to item number 1, a request for certificate of compliance, 6 Twin Echo Lane, DEP file number 14-1224. And I'm going to start by asking to Georgia to just give us a little bit of background on the procedure here, and we'll go from there.
Yes, thank you, Peter. And I'll also note that Mary Iapika has joined and she is here. So we have her. So background, as I noted in the memo, the Iapikas are requesting a partial release, a certificate of compliance for 6 Twin Echo Lane. So the order of conditions, DP file number 1412, I think it's 24. I lost my agenda, sorry. That was issued around 2013, and that order approved the subdivision roadway, which is known as Twin Echo, and the 4 associated house lots. Over that time, from when the permit was issued, no work was ever done on that lot under that order. Fast forward to a couple months ago, the Iapikas bought that lot and actually came before the commission not too long ago, probably a month or so ago, to get a new order of conditions to build the home. When they went for the sale, it sounds like this previous order came up on the title search. And so now the Iapikas are requesting that the commission close out the portion of work that was applicable to their lot, which we had seen nothing ever occurred, no work ever occurred under the order. A similar kind of approach was taken, I think, with 5 Twin Echo Lane, so across the cul-de-sac, same situation in which the applicant came before the commission previously to request their portion to be removed from the order, in which the commission did. So if the commission is satisfied with that, they would issue a partial certificate of compliance for 6 Twin Echo.
Okay, just one quick question. So if we issued an order of conditions back in August sometime, are we going to have to go through that process again?
Which process?
Are they going to have to file for an order of conditions all over, or?
No. So in this case, they've already filed and we've already issued their order, so they have an active permit to build the house. And then when they're done with that, they'll close it out, hopefully, with a certificate of compliance.
Okay, so they just need this certificate of compliance on the subdivision to clear up the title search.
Yes, for their lot in particular. So what you're releasing is just 6 Twin Echo Lane from DEP file number 141224,
Okay.
essentially.
Straightforward. That's the only question I have. Let me just pull the members and see if there are any other questions. So, Mike, you'll go first. Unmute, Mike. Mike, you're still muted.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Georgia, we're doing partial releases on these lot by lot. Is that correct?
So this would be the second partial release for this particular subdivision.
And when you said no work was done, the road was not put in or the road was put in?
So no work was done on the lot under the order. So the order very explicitly said, this order shall permit the subdivision roadway in the 4 house lots. And one of those house lots being lot 6, which was never built on. So the roadway was built, as we can see, but the work that was permitted to build the house was never done.
Yeah. Is the roadway a separate order of conditions? In other words, we sometimes do these differently, don't we, on individual lots versus the whole project? You follow what I'm saying?
Exactly. If anything, that's what we prefer, is that the roadway is its own order. The developer is the applicant in that case, and then each individual lot gets their own order. In this case, the IAPCAs wouldn't run into this issue. 7 years later, they're realizing the single-family home is tied to the stormwater infrastructure for the whole subdivision, which really doesn't make sense. That shouldn't be their requirement. So.
Yeah, it is or it isn't tied. It's not tied.
The whole order essentially it's tied to that overall,
Yeah.
but their responsibility as the individual homeowner as lot 6 necessarily shouldn't be theirs, but that's up to the commission.
But the developer has already come in and received some kind of, he was signed off with a certificate of compliance on the road?
No. So if the developer had come in and once the roadway was built and he had come in to close it out, that we wouldn't be in this situation, and that the rest of the project would have been closed out at the time. So it's up to the developer to come in and provide those as-built for the roadway.
So how do we get that done?
We would send him a letter requesting him to do so, but there's no binding, and David, you can step in if there is, but I don't think there's any regulatory binding matter that would make him come in and close it out, unless he had to for some reason, but we can't make him.
And that puts the onus on the homeowner?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in doing a partial release, we're saying, we're going to release just this individual lot, but we're still going to have the developer held responsible, and that this portion's still open and he's liable to close it out.
Yeah. One last question. So we don't know yet if we're satisfied with the roadway because he hasn't come back with his as-built.
Correct. And I'm not sure from the planning board standpoint, it may have been accepted from town meeting, and that means engineering's reviewed it, but from a Concom standpoint, they haven't closed out their order.
I don't believe it was accepted yet.
Okay.
That was all my questions. Thank you.
Does that put the homeowners at do they have any increased risk because the street hasn't been approved?
I wouldn't say they have increased risk. Generally, while the construction is going on, we and then the engineering division monitor the construction. That said, for the time being, if it's not accepted, which I don't believe it is, the town's not responsible for the way. So maintenance of the roadway or anything that happens to it. In this case, the onus would most likely still be on the developer, because I don't think there's any type of association that's been set up to deal with it.
Okay, as long as the homeowner's comfortable with that, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, you all set there, Mike?
I am. Thank you. Thank you.
And do you have any questions or comments?
No, that clarifies it, because that was the confusion, as far as I was concerned, is how about the roadway and stormwater management? But that's obviously with the developer. Okay.
Okay. Just another question again for myself. Are there more lots that we're gonna have to go through the same procedure?
No, so this is the last lot that's been bound to the commission that either doesn't have an open order or a certificate of compliance.
Okay. Vanessa, any questions, comments?
No, I don't have any additional questions.
Okay, I guess the first thing we need to do is close the hearing. Is that right, Georgia? Okay, so could someone make a motion that we close the hearing first, please?
Do we need to open it up for discussion at all, or no?
You're right, Mike. Are there any public comments? Dave, anyone on the email side?
Peter, at this time, no email.
How about on the phone side, Alicia?
No public comments.
Okay. All right, so if someone could make a motion that we close the hearing, please?
I'll move that we close the public hearing for 6 Twin Echo DEP file number 14-1224.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? I'm gonna go poll the members. Vanessa,
Yes.
Mike,
Aye.
Ann,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, now let's move on to issuing a certificate of compliance. If someone can make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for this piece of property, please.
Are we issuing a partial certificate? Yeah, okay. I'll make a motion that we issue a partial certificate of compliance for DEP file number 14-1224, releasing 6 Twin Echo from the OOC. Just 6 Twin Echo.
Second.
Okay, let's go. All in favor. Vanessa,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, you are good to go, Mary. And hopefully we'll see you soon when you're completed and you come back so we can close out your order of conditions.
We will be sure that that happens. Thank you so very much. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks, Mary.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, the 55 Wenham Street violation discussion has been continued till 10/22, and an ROI for 188 Elliott Street has been continued to 10/22. So next on the agenda is a notice of intent, 41 North Belgian Way, DEP file number 14-1350. And who's here to represent the applicant?
Hi, this is Bill Manuel. Can people hear me?
Yes, we can, Bill.
Yes.
Terrific. For some reason, I have video but no audio through the link, so I'm going to be doing this by my phone and see if I can put the plan up on the screen. So, Georgia or David, can you allow me to share my screen?
So I just gave you presentation power, so you should be able to do that. There we go.
Okay. All right, so Sandra Delgado is a relatively new resident here. I believe she's logged on. I think I saw her telephone number over in the participant list. And this is a house at 41 North Belgian Road. It's a typical house in the Woodvale subdivision. It's a ranch house on a slab, and as the commission is well familiar now, you know, all the streams and rivulets in that area back in the 60s were rerouted, so basically they coincided with rear lot lines, side lot lines, so there's quite a few homes in that neighborhood that are encumbered by buffer zones to these intermittent streams or even riverfront area to perennial streams. So Sandra is looking to do a renovation on her home, and the red hatched outline is the existing house footprint. There's a paved driveway out front. It's lawn from the street out to the back. There's some fencing around the rear yard already, and the intermittent stream is just off the rear property line, and it's typical. It took like 5 flags to mark where the top of the bank of the intermittent stream is, and that's in this blue line that I've highlighted. The 25-foot no disturb zone line is this lighter blue line that comes right through here, and the 35-foot no build line is this darker blue line, and then the 100-foot buffer zone line is out here. So all of the work is encumbered in the 100-foot buffer zone. So what they'd like to do on the exterior is install these additions. This is a fairly significant renovation. The interior is going to be pretty much gutted down to the walls, down to the studs, and interior walls reworked. The outside is going to have these projections. These are going to be living space over here on the left and right, and this is a new front porch. They're going to take the door, which is right here, and move it to about right here. And this will be a porch that covers the front entry. So these additions will be slab on grade. They'll have to do a little bit of excavating to, install a footing and a frost wall, and they'll tie that right into the existing footings and slab for the existing house. And then, these walls will be removed on the inside. When they're all done, they're going to go around the entire house and put new siding on, new windows, and because this addition here is going to join into the roof, there's some roof work that's going to be done. They'll probably have to reshingle the roof. The landscaping around the property has pretty much got away from the previous owner, and you can see this isn't a very big backyard. There's a line of overgrown, I believe they're Japanese yew shrubs that are probably 12 feet tall or more. And the shrubs, the canopy sort of comes out almost to the middle of the yard here. It's pretty dramatic how much room they take up. And all the lower branches have been, as we say, lifted up. The canopy's been lifted up. So there's no lower branches up to about 6 or 7 feet, which offers zero privacy. So the owners would like to remove these overgrown shrubs. We want to remove these bushes, and we'd like to install a fence, a vinyl fence, along the side and along the rear. There's already a wire fence along the rear. They're going to take that out and replace it with vinyl, and then come up the side again. Actually, I think this is existing over here, and this is existing. So that will do 2 things. It will enclose the backyard for Sandra's dog to be able to run, and it'll also create a safety fence and a privacy fence for this proposed pool. Now, this is going to be an above-ground pool feature, so it is temporary, albeit long-term temporary, but ultimately when the life of the pool is over, the pool will be removed and the area will be restored to grass. There's going to be a small deck on this end of the pool so you can climb up, maybe put a few chairs in and step off into the pool. What wasn't shown on the site plan and what Georgia pointed out when we walked the site on Tuesday is, are there going to be any steps up to this deck? And of course there will be. So I've just shown a little projection here on my exhibit plan where you'll probably have 5 or 6 steps that'll go up to the elevation of the deck here. So all of this area is grass. Everywhere where there's construction going on is grass. There's no indigenous vegetation. The 25-foot no disturb zone has already been maintained and has been maintained as grass for probably as long as the house has been built. One other thing I wanted to mention is you see the existing shed right here in the middle of basically in the middle of the backyard. we want to relocate that shed to this corner here to get it out of the way, and that will allow the installation of this pool. So we've asked for a waiver to install the above-ground pool in the, it turns out, in the partially in the no disturb zone and in the no build zone. As I said, it's a temporary feature. It covers roughly 541 square feet of area. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Continue, Bill.
Anyway, 541 square feet, but this deck is above ground, and the pool, you know, as soon as the useful life is over, the pool is removed. So I have asked for a waiver for that. Just to give you a perspective, I did a little Google Earth, and I wanted to show you along this block here. Here's 41 North Belgian, and this blue line here is approximately where the pool would go. And you can see on this section of block here, there are 7 pools that are in similar proximity to the stream that runs right through here. So it's obviously something that is pretty prevalent in this part of the subdivision, and you know, it certainly looks like I didn't see any adverse effects on the stream when I was there, and so obviously those pools seem to be doing just fine without impacting the resource area. So that's the work. By the way, the yellow line here I've highlighted is the erosion controls that they're going to install. This is a raised planter garden, a raised vegetable garden, so the erosion control goes right around that, and it encloses all of the work area so that nothing is going to run from any of the excavation towards the stream. There's not even any contours on this plan, but there are spot grades. You can see here's 49, 49, 48.3. The backyard is almost dead flat, so I don't have any concern whatsoever that we're going to have any sediment migration toward the stream, especially with this mulch sock that's going to be installed. So that's the proposal, and I'm interested to hear if the commission has any questions.
Okay, let me start. Bill, could you go back to that Google Earth picture, please?
Yes.
I spent some time looking at this myself today. If you go up 5 houses to the left,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
what is that in the upper left-hand corner? Is that like a pond?
I don't know what that is. It might have been. It's suspiciously round, and it might be the site of a former above-ground pool, just like something like this.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can see that. Okay, no, I noticed I made the same observation about the pools. You know, and I'm not sure when they were permitted, but, you know, we as a board, we're trying to, you know, try to adhere to the rules as best we can. So if we go back to the plot plan, just a quick question. If that pool was shifted a little bit to the left and brought in a little closer to the house, it would get it out of the 25-foot no disturb zone. Is that, can you see that?
I don't know that we can do that and get it completely out and have it fit. Let me just see here. Oh, wrong line.
And it's an odd-shaped pool. Is that like a lap type pool, or?
It is.
It looks like.
I mean, we'd have to go like this, and you see where the pool is now? And we'd have to jam it right up against the patio in the house. And, you know, not the most ideal situation. You know, it'd be right in here. And then the deck, I didn't drag the deck along with it, so that the deck wouldn't fit anymore. So I don't know that how we're going to
I think you'd still have room for the deck. I think you'd still have room for the deck on the left-hand side.
Well, I'm going to drag that again. So if I were to do that, you know, possibly fit the deck in over there. But look where the pool is, right next to the patio. This is an above ground feature, so you're going to have a 3 foot, 3.5 foot pool right next to your patio and directly almost, a foot off your house. That's what it would take to achieve that getting out of the 25 zone.
Right.
And
Well, you could also shrink that addition down a bit too to accommodate that. I'm just, our focus here is on protecting, the 25-foot no disturb zone. So I'm just trying to see if that will work. Granted, there's not much detriment to the wetlands because there's really no wetlands here, but it's just, like I said, we want to, try and do as much as we can to prevent anyone being within that. And as I look up the street, those are all there. I'm not sure when they were permitted and when they were built, but it definitely wasn't in front of this board. So it's good to see that, but it also shouldn't have any, it doesn't set a precedent for us.
I would like to point out, too, that, if this were a naturally vegetated no disturb zone, I'd say, well, we really should be looking to tighten up this project, but it isn't. And, it's been a maintained lawn probably, as I said, since the 1960s when this house was built.
Right.
So what we have done is maintain the spirit and the intent of the no disturb zone by avoiding any areas that are indigenous vegetation. Frankly, we don't have any on this lot. So, it's the effects of the pool here are really no different than the effects of the pool here. You're still going to scrape out a little bit of grass and put some bedding sand down there so you have a nice flat bottom. And so basically it moves it 6 or 7 feet away, but it's the effect is essentially the same. You're working in grass and you're still, 25 to 30 feet away from where this brook is.
Okay, the further question, Bill, what is the 25-foot line? Where's that 25 feet from?
It is offset from the bank flags right here, this blue line.
It's 25 feet from the bank. Okay. Okay. One thing that is a plus in my mind is that you are taking out lawn and replacing it with a pool, because I just, lawns on the whole are really not good for the wetlands. They're just, all the fertilizer and everything just leaches into the wetlands. So that's a positive in my mind. That's all I have for questions. So I'm going to turn it over to the members. So Mike, do you have any questions? Turn your mic on, Mike.
Go.
You're unmuted, Mike. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I can't see anyone anymore. I can't see anyone anymore. Where'd it go? Let's see down here. Okay, that's better. All right. So, Bill, what are the dimensions on the pool?
The pool is about 12 feet wide and 36 feet long.
So, I mean, the pool could be a little smaller. Everything could be shrunk down a little to get out of the 25. I have the same concerns that our chairman has, that, it's in the no disturb. You get it out of there, still will be in the no build, but it'll be out of the no disturb. And I think that shed looks like it's in the no disturb too, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
This shed is presently in the no disturb. It is in the way, and we would like to move it back here. But
can you show me where you'd move it?
Yeah, right to here, Michael.
That's where it'll go?
That's
Right.
where we'd like it to go, yes.
But isn't that in the no disturb?
It's already partially in the no disturb zone, and so we just move it over here to, it's an open area of the back corner of the lot.
But still in the no disturb.
That's correct.
So the pool, the shed, I don't know. I think you can do better.
Well, I think you have to. I mean, I appreciate that, but you know, it's one thing to say you could take this pool and you could make it smaller and you can shove it over here, but you know, now, I mean, the layout has symmetry. It has, you know, it's something that was thought out. It wasn't just sort of thrown in here. And to say that, well, you know, to ignore that it's open grass is, I think the commission is really doing the applicant a disservice, because this situation here is no different than this, or this, or this, or this. It's just no different. It's all in grass. But what you're doing is just jamming something off to one side for the sake of getting it away from this line that's drawn on a plan. And I think the commission should consider that it's a small lot, it's a small backyard, and there really isn't a lot of options, you know, other than, you know, taking something and making it less desirable.
Well, that's a good sized pool, 12 by 36. I mean, some of those pools you showed, they look like 12-foot round pools. They were smaller pools. That's a big pool.
Yeah, the important thing, though, Michael, is that it's only 12 feet wide. I mean, even if we shrunk it up, you'd still have to say, well, it's only 12 feet wide. In order for me to get out of that no disturb zone, I'm going to have to shift it this way, and it just jams it right up against the house.
How far into the no disturb is it?
It's about halfway.
I'm going to scale it on my plan here in the office. About 6.5 feet.
And then what's going to be on the brook side of that pool? It'll be, it won't just be, the pool won't just end there. There'll be something else.
That's right. There'll be, we're going to replace this wire fence with a nice privacy fence, and there'll be evergreens along the face of the fence.
But I mean, at the base of the pool, there'll be some additional structure or sand or what? Or patio block? What's going to be there?
No, just the grass can go right up to the edge of the pool. They put sand under the bottom of the pool, so it's, you know, basically, so no little pebbles work up and puncture the pool liner.
So how's the pool accessed, Bill? So you're not talking about a pathway going around the pool. How do people get in and out of the pool?
They'll have this little deck here, and there'll be some steps going up to the deck surface.
What about where's the shed sit right now? Can we see the picture of the Google Earth picture to see the shed?
Yeah, well, the shed is right here on the plan. Can you see that?
That's existing, yeah.
That's correct, yes.
And you want to take that shed, and where do you want to put it?
Back to this corner.
You want to move it further into the no disturb, where it's not, I mean, is that correct?
That is correct, but we're moving it to an area that's...
What's the rationale for that? What's the rationale for that?
The rationale is there's nothing over here, and we can move the shed without impacting any vegetation. I mean, you do what you can do on these small lots. I mean, we don't have a lot to work with.
All right, that's enough questions from me.
Okay, Ann.
The bushes that are going to be removed, is this all flat land beyond those bushes? Or is there a drop off there?
No, and this is all flat from until you get to the sort of the top of the slope beyond the fence here. This is all flat on the neighbor's yard, into this yard, into this yard.
Okay, and so when we say slope, is it small, 1 foot, 2 feet?
I would say that once you get beyond this wire fence right here,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably a 3. Well, let me see. Elevation 47 is right here, 47, 48, right behind the fence,
Okay,
down to elevation 42 at the top of the bank. So we're talking, real quick math here. It's about 1-to-1 slope there.
okay, okay. The bushes on the side, okay, I'm sorry. The bushes on the side, are they going to be removed as well?
We would like to remove these bushes and again, replace them with something that's smaller and closer to the fence. The proposed fence will go right along here. And the reason we want to remove these bushes, because I said that, the landscaping got away from the previous
Right.
owner.
Mm-hmm.
And they just really are taking up a significant amount of this small backyard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, in that case, the shed could be moved that way toward where those bushes are going to be removed, right? That is a possibility, getting it out of the 20-foot, 25-foot zone.
That is a possibility.
Okay. Now, yeah,
It's a possibility, yes.
okay. Now, what I understood from reading, that the patio is new. That's not constructed yet. Is that correct, or is that an existing patio?
No, there'll be a new patio there, a new paver stone patio. It will replace basically what's an at-grade wood flooring. I hesitate to call it decking. It kind of looks like there's particle board or something that's been, somebody made an effort to have something there.
Okay. So what you have right now is, for that patio, is not what is there, but is what will be there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Vanessa?
Thanks. On the left side of the house, Bill, along the lines where Ann was asking about where the bushes are going to be removed, is there going to be a gate in the fence there, or is it a solid fence?
Perhaps Sandra can chime in on that. There is a gate over here already. If it were my house, I would like a gate here, just so I can go either way, to the backyard, to the front. But Sandra would have to answer that question.
I'm present. Do you want any comments? Hello?
Sure. Were you thinking about having a gate on the left side of the house, Sandra?
I hadn't planned that, but if it's required and if it's something that is suggested, then I would consider it, obviously. But I haven't, since, like, as Bill Manuel mentioned, there's a gate on one side of the house. I didn't know that I didn't know if it was necessary or required to have one on the other side of the house as well.
I was just thinking, if there is not a gate there, it almost looks like a little nook that the shed could get tucked into, that it would be kind of surrounded on 3 sides, 2 sides by the fence and 1 by the addition of the house. But, it's hard to know if it would exactly fit, but it seems like it's a possible spot for the shed to kind of be tucked away over there if there is not a gate, if it would fit.
I don't know that it would fit because of the addition that's going to be on that side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure that I would have to go over the plans with the architect and with Bill and see what kind of space is on that side. And the reason why, as one of the members of the board asked why I wanted to put the shed in the location where Mr. Manuel was explaining, is because it appears, if you walk through the yard, that would be the area that seems most amenable for that shed. My neighbor has his shed on that same corner, so those sheds would be side by side practically, barring the fence in between us, separating our yards. That's one of the reasons why I thought that would be the most appropriate place to put the shed, where the pool is going to be on the other side of the house, and it would make more, aesthetically, it would be the most pleasing way to look, when the yard is completely done, for it to be on that side of the house. Right now it's in the middle of the yard, and it really does nothing. It prevents me from doing anything in my own yard. And as for the patio that was addressed a little while ago, what's in the patio right now is it's just a makeshift decking with what do they call it? I can't remember what it's not plywood is on top of it, but there's what do you call those things that where you load things on and you carry them? It's like a, oh my goodness, I can't remember the name. Like a pallet. I couldn't hear what you said. A pallet? It's like when you're loading big items, and it's got oh my goodness, why I can't think of this word.
I think she means pallet. Does she mean pallets?
Pallet, yeah.
Pallets, that's it. Yes, thank you. So there's a number of pallets on the grass right now, with plywood on top, because I wanted to get a visual of what the yard would look like and how much space I would need to complete like a patio area, when we come out of the house. And that's what's on there right now. It's pallets with plywood on top.
Okay, and so Bill, you showed about moving that exact pool further out of the 25. I wonder if there's any appetite for a round pool or a differently shaped pool that could come forward and to the left a little bit. Just to, again, try to get out of the 25. I agree with Mike and Peter that there's a lot going on within the 25 here.
We'll have to look at that. We'll have to discuss it with Sandra.
Well, certainly the pool can be shortened lengthwise. Instead of 36, it could be shortened. But I don't even know that even a round pool, as is being suggested, would really, because the diameter of a round pool would nevertheless also have the same width, so to speak, the 12-foot that I'm suggesting for my yard. And I don't know that with the addition that's going to be happening on the left side of the house. I mean, I'm not sure placement-wise. I'm not looking at a plan right this moment. So visually, I can't see, and I'm not looking at the lines that you guys are looking at in terms of the where the placement would be and how it affects the diagrams that you're looking at. I don't have access to that right this moment, but certainly in terms of maybe shortening it from 36, I could make it shorter, but I don't know that the 12-foot, the other side, the 12-foot side, could be shortened anymore.
I think if she made it shorter, the shed could be moved out of the 25, because then there'd be room on the left side.
I don't know that left side is a great option, just because the decking is also going to be on that side. But if it has to be reworked, then we can try to figure that out.
Let me just interject something here too. How cast in stone is the depth of that addition on the right-hand side of the building? If you pull that back by 5 or 6 feet, you could pull the pool in by 5 or 6 feet, and that would just solve the problem. And you can make up the square footage on the left-hand side, or you can make it, I'm not sure what the zoning is and the setbacks are on the side, but you could gain that square footage by, manipulating those walls a bit. I think we really want to encourage you to rework your numbers and try and get out of that 25-foot zone. I'm sorry, Vanessa, you still have the floor, so if there's more questions, feel free.
No, I don't think I really had anything additional to what I've already said.
Okay, I'm just going to poll the members to get a feel for what they're thinking, and I think everyone knows what I'm thinking. That I'd like to see this get the pool pulled back out of the 25. I think there is some manipulation of the plan that could be done to accomplish that. So, as it stands right now, I can't support granting a waiver to build this in the 25. So that being said, I'm going to go to Mike, and you can just make a comment, Mike.
Well, if they could go back to the drawing board and find a way to do that, I'd like to see that. I'm not in favor of, at some point we have to take a stand on these no disturb zones. I mean, what are you going to do? It's a no disturb. We're going to be increasing no disturbs, not making them less. So they become meaningless at some point, and I'm not in favor of that. So,
Okay. And the other thing on that too, Mike, is the square footage requirement that's coming down the road. I think they can only be allowed 10% of it, and this would be much more than 10% of the land within the 25. Okay, Ann, what do you think?
Okay, I am not in favor of the pool in the 25-foot zone, and I'd like to see some reworking to get better footage within the 35 and get it out of that 25. Some of the bushes and all of that work I'm very happy with, but that pool is just too big for that section in the 25. So I would not support the waiver.
Okay. Vanessa, any comment?
I'm on the same page as the other members.
Okay, so Bill, I'm going to pass it over to you. Do you want us to continue and you can come back to us, or how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I appreciate the commission's comments and your message is coming through loud and clear. Sandra and I are going to have to reconvene and we'll figure out what we need to do to get something that's satisfiable to the commission. So I guess I would like to ask for a continuance of the meeting for 2 weeks.
Okay, is 2 weeks enough? I'll leave that up to you. If not, we can always push it back.
No, 2 weeks should be fine.
Okay.
Sandra, is that agreeable to you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we could entertain a motion to continue this hearing to our 10/22 meeting.
Should we see do we need to see if there's public input before we continue?
Yes.
We could. I mean, we're going to continue, so it doesn't really matter, I don't think. But yeah, let's go ahead and ask. So, Dave, are there any email comments?
No comments via email.
And Alicia, are there any phone comments?
No phone comments.
Okay. All right. If someone can make a motion that we.
Yeah, wait a minute, Matthew Duggan here.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I just I agree with Mr. Spillane that you have to draw the line, and it's not that you're setting the precedent. I think precedents have already been set, but you this 25-foot no disturb. I thought that automatically precluded some activity like building a pool in that area. So I don't know about the other pools in that neighborhood. Maybe they they can't be used as a litmus test here. I think that those may also be in some type of violation. But specific to this application, I would ask that the homeowner go back and kind of revisit the size of the pool and move that shed out of that corner. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Hearing none, could I have a motion that we, I'm sorry. Could someone make a motion that we continue this hearing to our 10/22 meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for 41 North Belgian to our next meeting, which is October the 22nd.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll poll the members. All in favor of this motion? Vanessa?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Ian?
Yes.
Peter? Yes. Okay, so Bill, we will look forward to hearing from you on the 22nd, and if you can't get things squared away, just let Georgia know, and we'll go on to the next meeting.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill.
All right,
Thank you.
minutes. There were minutes from September 24th. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I have not.
I reviewed the ones from the 10th. I think we had 2 sets in the packet.
Okay, so just the 10th, but they're not on the agenda. Is that just an oversight, Georgia?
I guess that was. I apologize.
Okay.
24th are the minutes that the only minutes that would be approving, if they read them.
So, have you reviewed, has anyone else reviewed the 24th minutes?
I reviewed both sets, and
Mike, you haven't seen any?
I haven't reviewed them,
Okay,
but Ann has apparently.
so, well, 3 of us have reviewed the 10th. Is that correct?
yep.
Okay, so why don't we just try and get through some of these? So if someone can make a motion, we'll accept the minutes from the 10th.
I just have an edit on the minutes from the 10th too.
Okay.
I noticed that for the first 2 agenda items, anytime there was a roll call vote, whether it was to close the hearing or, issue the order, Ann's name was missing from
Right.
the roll call.
I notified Alicia of that. She was going to correct that.
Okay. I have no other edits.
Okay, so we can approve with that, provided that edit is made?
Yep.
Okay, so if someone make a motion to accept those minutes from September 10th?
I'll make a motion to accept the September 10th minutes of the Danvers Conservation Commission meeting.
And is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, Mike, I'm not going to ask you to vote because you haven't reviewed, so Vanessa, do you approve these minutes?
I do, yes.
And for Ann?
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, have both of you had a chance to review the September 24th minutes?
No.
No? Okay. All right, so those we're going to have to postpone to the next meeting. Okay, if there are any other minutes, Alicia, just please keep them coming. Okay, so now we're on to old new business, which is, I'm going to turn it over to Georgia and to David. It's more of the bylaw changes.
Yes.
And we have this meeting and one more before the town meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct. And tonight would be the last night for discussion if the board intends on recommending the wetland bylaw changes. So this would be the last night for discussion if you guys vote. So let me share my screen. Can everyone see it? I'm hoping so.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Great. And if you have any questions, just chime in because I can't really see everyone. So, so quick overview. As I've said, this is our 3rd meeting of discussion of the bylaw changes. So we've had quite a bit of discussion on the big items that are being proposed to be updated. And then towards the end of, after we talk about the bylaw updates, we'll get into more of the regulation updates we've been working on. So again, an overview. So the 3 big changes we've had to the bylaw and the proposal is the jurisdiction. So expanding our jurisdiction to now include vernal pools, whether they're certified by the state or not, isolated wetlands, and then increasing our buffers from that 25-35 to now a 35 and a 50. Additionally, on top of that, the work within those areas, there's going to be additional waiver requirements, which we'll see expanded within the regs. And then we've added conditions and requirements for docks and piers, which we've really seen over the past year, if not more, a lot more of those projects coming in and the commission working to condition them individually. And we're realizing now adding a lot of those provisions right into the regulations would really help, especially for applicants during the permitting phase and the design phase. If they can look to our regulations to really see what the commission would prefer they use, whether that be materials, size, then we're more likely to get in applications that come in with the commission seeing exactly what we expect. And then again, another big change is minor projects. So really eliminating those.
Georgia, before you go to minor projects, you had noted that you were looking for some input on the clearance, the 18 to 36. Did you get anything?
No, so I'm waiting again to hear back from Tay Evans from Department of Marine Fisheries. But before, when we did have this discussion a couple of months ago, she gave me a name of a professor from Salem State that actually was involved in the original delineation of the shellfish habitat of some of the sites we actively get permitting for. So I've reached out to him, seeing if he can come in front of the board to maybe give an overview of just shellfish habitat in general and why they suggest that 18 or why it's more beneficial the higher you go.
Are we looking to insert a hard number into the regulations for the decks and piers, or are we looking to put a range in?
So as of now, what staff has proposed is a straight number based on kind of previous history, and that's the number I've left blank. You know, what's recommended is that 18. In shellfish areas, the DMF recommends 36.
More than 18.
Yeah, more than 18. 36. So that's where we kind of look to the commission to say that number. And as you asked, Mike, and as the commission noted, it would be best to turn to kind of more of the experts. So I'm hoping I can get someone for the next meeting. That way we can kind of nail down a concrete number.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Mhm.
And so the minor projects, that was a really big, one of our bigger updates, in that if you meet certain requirements, you're not subject to go in front of the commission, but you're required to get staff approval. A lot of those would be, you know, those minor projects outside of the 50-foot buffer zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to touch on that in the next slide. And then our various changes to the definitions, our fee structures, and, you know, the general purpose. There was some language changes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the big change for the minor projects, the commission was aware of the changes that we've added previously. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about what was allowed as minor projects. And from that conversation, Dave and I had talked, and we realized that we recommend adding a square foot limit to minor projects. So for example, say you're in the Woodvale neighborhood and you want to add an addition on your home, you're 50 feet away from the top of bank, you can install erosion control, you show me a plan that proves you're 50 feet away, that you'll install erosion control and that you'll loam and seed afterwards. If that's all set, then you would get your staff approval. And we've added this provision here as long as it's 500 square feet or less. You know, without adding that, if they meet all that requirements, technically staff approval, there really is no threshold. So we believe adding that 500 square foot maximum is appropriate based on, again, kind of addition sizes we've seen in the past. 500 square feet is pretty, it's a lot to work with. So we thought adding that was appropriate, and that would be the most recent update to the amendments that you guys have seen. Are there any questions on this most recent change?
No, I'm good.
On the 500 square feet, would that be like, for example, a 20 by 25 shed, or how would that
Yeah.
translate? In
Dana,
other
does
words,
that math work out that way?
That's 400 square feet, isn't it?
yeah, I know. That's
You're
why.
close,
That's
but-
why I asked the question.
That's one big shed.
You're looking at the total dimension, not just length, width, height. So what does that give you in terms of a structure?
Well, it's 500 square feet is area, so
Yeah.
it's not going up necessarily. If it's 20 by 20, then that's the area, right? The 20 times 20
Yep,
is square footage.
Four.
that would be a very large shed.
So we're not looking at anything bigger than a doghouse in terms of any kind of structure that comes up, right?
Georgia can correct me.
That being said, I think 500 square feet is pretty generous. I mean, that's a good size
Yeah.
patio. You know, so
Yeah, so what I'm saying, what are we anticipating that applies to? 500 is a patio, a walkway, that sort of thing?
I mean, that could be a house addition if somebody was like adding on a family room or a sunroom like that.
Uh,
That's under
no,
500 feet, I would say.
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
accessory to a single-family dwelling. So common things that you usually review, a deck. I wanted to put some kind of hot tub structure.
but
The
it's
old
going to be an
jacuzzi.
it's going to be
But
an
it couldn't
accessory.
be, Vanessa, it couldn't be an addition, because it's
Oh, yeah, for a
square
minor
feet.
project. Yeah.
No, it can't be.
Right. So
Size
exactly.
500 square feet is big. That's not anything small. Like a lot of sheds are like 10 by 10. That would be 100.
No, it would be 10 by 10 by 8.
No, we don't need to worry about that.
You're just thinking of area,
'Cause
Mike.
that's getting into cubic feet.
Yeah.
Right. So just straight area?
Just straight area.
George, let me ask a question.
Yes.
Is it 500 square feet and or 10% of the area in question?
No, so you're getting, that's a great question. So that's getting confused with when we get into our 3550
Yeah.
buffer zone. So this is the 500 square foot is just relative to minor projects, accessory to single family homes outside of the 50-foot buffer. So that being said, that 500 square foot is permanent alteration. So you could do say you're proposing a 10 by 10 patio, a 20 by 20 addition. If my math is correct, we're at 400 square feet total. So they have another
400, yeah.
Yep, so then they could do maybe a 10 by 10 shed again. So there you go, you have a cumulative 500 square feet of alteration. Or you could do one addition. But I also preface, if the commission feels 500 square feet is too much to be allowing administratively under, not on an RDA or an NOI, then we can lower that number, absolutely.
Just go back a step, Georgia.
Yes.
You had said in addition, and right here I'm just saying conversion of lawn to uses accessory. To me, an addition is not an accessory use. It's added to the
It's an
dwelling.
addition.
That's okay. That's a great point. Is that something the commission would want to clarify, in that if they were to allow minor projects outside of the 50, would you want to include additions to homes? Because it's a way it's interpreted, and a lot of times additions do apply to that language.
No, I'd say we don't want to include that.
So you would want to.
It's one thing to build a patio or a deck, but to add on to a structure, I mean, there's a lot more construction that goes into that.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify, because that way we can better elaborate in the regulation. So if someone came forward and they wanted to put on a 20 by 20 addition to the home, and they're 50 feet away, and they could install erosion controls, we wouldn't want to consider that as a minor project.
Right.
Okay.
That's my thinking, at least.
I don't know. I think the way it's written, I think Peter's right. It says accessory uses. I don't think that would encompass an addition. So I don't know if you need to cite examples. Is that something you can do in this?
But just to elaborate on that, Mike, this is all to alleviate people having to come in front of us. So
Right.
for something as major as an addition, I would want them to come in front of us.
I'm looking at the definition, and it says, so certain projects may involve minimal activity and or alteration. I guess if you're putting in an addition, and especially if it was like But if it was gonna have a basement, this and that, that's not minimal activity or alteration. I feel like if you're digging a basement, that's not minimal alteration. And that's a lot of additions might be on a slab.
Slab.
Still, it doesn't really, I don't think that really seems, because like when some of the other minor activities listed include a pedestrian walkway, fencing, a stone wall, vista pruning of branches less than 1 inch, that's not really to me similar as to like adding an addition to a house.
Is there a way, Georgia, to say the following accessory uses that are less than 500 square feet of alteration, and then list them, or is that not workable?
I mean, we could. The Act itself does list, I just had, so the Act, it says, the conversion of lawn to uses accessory to residential structures, such as decks, sheds, patios, pools.
Yeah.
And that's what you get, decks, sheds, patios, pools.
I like the definitions only because then you said earlier, it's good for people to know when they come in by looking at this, what they can do. You know, it takes the guesswork out, I guess. It does.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page that I wouldn't necessarily consider a 20 by 20 addition an accessory use to a house. It's expanding the house.
But if you have a 10 by 10 mudroom that you're adding, which is small, that might be different. So is 500 square feet too big?
So I guess that's a good question that Anne's kind of posing, that is there a threshold where the commission is comfortable? You know, if someone's coming in for a 10 by 10 shed, or in this case, if we were to change the definition to pool, that could be a pretty substantial in-ground pool. In comparison to, again, back to an addition, well, that work could be small. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there a number threshold that the commission is comfortable with in addition to a definition? Because someone could say, you know, you're allowing pools, but I only want to add 5 feet to my mudroom. So how is that allowed? You know what, you kind of have to play the devil's advocate in the way the applicant would come in and apply. So I think that's where a size threshold would be appropriate, either alongside a definition or just in itself, you know, 200 square feet, period. You can do a patio.
Nobody comes in with a 10 by 10 plan to add on to their house. It's more like
No.
So I'm thinking they either get away from additions and put some specificity in there is what they can do. I don't have a problem with the 500 square feet unless it's an addition.
Right.
Okay.
I agree with Mike. We just have to emphasize that accessory word in the definition.
Got it.
It can't be an add-on in addition to the main dwelling. It's got to be something that, like it says, it's an accessory, like a patio, a deck. A shed would not be that big, but you know, something along those lines.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think what we're hearing is we'll just mirror what the Act says, those listed items that Georgia mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Wonderful. Okay.
So we beat that one to death.
No, that was great. That's exactly what we want to do. So,
That's what we do. Yeah.
and the great thing again is that this is all language in the regulation. So say we implement that, we change that definition, we say sheds, patio, pools. In a year and a half from now, we're realizing that that definition, what we're seeing isn't falling into it, or we need to expand on it. We can do that at a meeting, and we don't have to do that at town meeting. So that can be something we can work on.
We can tweak it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wait, sorry. I take that back. I apologize. This is the language in the bylaw. So no, this is not something. I apologize. I'm all over the place.
But when we get to the regulations, we can interpret it as such. But
Yes.
Make sure that the accessory is in there.
Yes.
By now, the warrant's already been sealed, right?
No, so the final language, so what David and I will do is we'll mirror exactly the language that's in the act, is what you guys were comfortable with, that defines that accessory.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And so if you guys favorably vote tonight on this, hopefully you would say as presented, which is what would be tonight, that minor change to that.
Okay.
David, am I correct in that?
We'll see what we can do tomorrow before the selectmen's packet goes out.
So we're gonna mirror the act, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 items Georgia listed.
Yes. So that being said, that was really the final one minor update to the bylaw. And I had noted to Peter, this was really the last night, the third hearing to wrap up those changes. And if the commission was comfortable with them, as discussed, putting them forth. And also, I am just going to pass it to David if there was anything he wanted to add or highlight.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
We have a lot more to beat to death in the regs.
Yes.
That's another night. Okay, so George has asked for us to vote on two separate things, and this one was the first. So before we proceed to vote or make a motion to send a letter of recommendation, we need to open it up for any public comment. So, Dave, is there anyone out there emailing in on this subject?
So far, there are no emails.
And how about on the phone, Alicia?
No public comments.
Okay.
Can I just a second? Sorry. So I have a question about the additional document that was in our packet, the one that's called Section 3, Additional Wetland Resource Areas Protected under the bylaw.
Yep.
How does that fit in here?
So that's in the regulations. So the title of that section may be a little bit misleading, but what that section is for in the regulations, it basically says in the bylaw, we are now protecting vernal pools, isolated wetlands, in a 35 and 50-foot buffer.
Okay.
And that section in the regulations, it gives you the whole rigmarole of how to apply it. So that's the section I gave you as regulations.
Okay. Can I make a comment on this portion?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, under the 50-foot no build zone definition and characteristics, it talks about the things that should be prohibited. And the only
Sorry, Vanessa. Are you talking about on the document, the section 3 that you received in the memo?
yes,
Okay. So of the regulation part. Great.
okay, yes. So it's talking about changing the 25 and 35 to the 35 and the 50. Okay. So there were just two items that were not listed under things that we frequently see that are going to be constructed, and I just wanted to maybe see if we could have a discussion on where we'd like to see them fall. So basically it says the following shall be prohibited between the 35-foot and 50-foot from the resource area. So basically what it's going to be the no build zone. So it says the following shall be prohibited. A, building or structures that require a building permit, and then B, structures or other fixtures that do not require a building permit, including but not limited to pools, pool decks, patios or decks, sports courts, parking lots, driveways, sheds, utility lines, and the like, but excluding limited or minor accessory structures or items such as lawn furniture, sandboxes, swing sets, or the like. So two things I don't see in this list that come up a lot are fences and retaining walls.
Oh, okay.
So because they come up so much, I didn't know if it was something we should try to all get on the same page as each other and specify them.
Just for clarity, sorry to jump in before you all. Some retaining walls do require a building permit, so if we go down the road of including it, we may want to specify the differences between what actually requires a building permit and what does not. So it would generally be retaining walls less than 4 feet, just so we can put the correct one where it should go, either A or B.
Thank you. Yeah, because I mean, I know that the larger ones do require a building permit, but even when you're, say it's under that height, you still have to like dig out all the earth.
Right.
And a fence itself, like once the fence is standing, that doesn't have a lot of impact, but digging all the posts
Yeah.
could. So I'm not, in my opinion, I'm not sure those are that would, like a fence or a retaining wall would fall in with lawn furniture, sandboxes, swing sets. I feel like it might fall more in with like patios, decks, driveways, roadways, sheds.
Yeah.
But I just want to see where everybody else was on it. And I just feel like those are two things that come up a lot. Retaining walls seem to come up quite a bit.
Well, Vanessa, I had fences question mark on that very same section because once they're in, they're like a permanent structure. And then if you have to take them out, then you're disturbing everything around it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think retaining walls, we've had some debates over previous projects in the past about where, if a retaining wall was considered a built structure or not a built structure, could it be in the no build or not? So I don't know, Peter or Mike, what do you guys think?
I think it's a good point. I think we probably should include those.
I agree.
All right. So I will add those to that reg portion that Vanessa had just pointed out.
Make a comment?
Yeah, of course, Ann.
Under the 313 requirements, no disturbance zone demarcation. I love the require no disturbance zone to be marked on the ground. Because when people change, sell their house, someone coming in doesn't know. But it says may require. Couldn't we, I'm for these, let's require it. And again, part of it is so that the new homeowner comes in and understands what's going on in terms of wetlands. And I make this point because I just talked to someone who bought the house down the street here, and her husband is clearing out the back on Beaver, because the Beaver Brook that runs behind their house is filled with things that people threw in the brook. So he is going through and taking it all out. And she said, and we know it's wetlands, but we didn't want to have all this junk there. I was like, hooray! But again, not every homeowner is going to do that kind of thing or recognize what the wetlands are. So that's my only suggestion there, is make it more firm, not a may.
Yes.
No wishy-washy.
I support that. I will add that. Wonderful.
Just as a matter of practice, we have been, making it as part of the order of conditions. Probably it's been post more so than level markers, but
Yeah. And we can make them posts too. I can change that language to the 4x4 posts. Or 3x4. Yeah.
So I have a question on this one, because I feel like we've asked for this before and say like a complete, like, so a new house that's getting built, we've asked for them. When there's not, like it's a vacant lot or a new subdivision or something, we've asked for them. I'm not sure we can ask for it. So like, just to give an example, like the project we heard tonight on Belgian, I feel like we made them put this up on their like cuts the yard in half. So it's tricky on some of these smaller properties that are entirely within the 100-foot. I'm not sure. I don't know. I like the idea of it, but I feel like if you tell somebody who's lived in a house for 30 years, now you have to like cut your yard in half with these posts. I don't know. I'm a little torn.
So are you suggesting we put the word may back in?
I mean, I'm just bringing it up for discussion, but
Maybe as practical as is practical. maybe
Yeah,
it isn't always practical.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, I like the idea of it all the time, but it just might not be a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Can we, just to brainstorm here, can we attach that to the plot plan documentation?
What do you mean? That they show it on their plan?
The demarcation, so if, say, when the property changes hands down the road, that the seller and the buyer, more importantly, the buyer, is aware that there are wetlands and there are restrictions there.
Mm.
It would depend on where they're getting that said plan. I mean, if it was shown on an as-built, then yes. It would just be dependent if the owners the sellers would see that, the buyers would see that. But we could have them show them on an as-built that they are there.
Well, that's a start. That's a step in the right direction. So maybe we should require that on as-built, that that plan has to show those lines. That's an absolute.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do require that now, but I think it's a matter of highlighting that for down the line.
Okay, maybe probably just the question we should ask as we go forward.
Okay.
Okay.
So I know we're talking about regulations now, but I think, Peter, before we jump to kind of getting in on the regulations, I want to make sure we stick to the bylaw. And the questions were great. So before we kind of jump in, Peter I think you were talking about the motion.
Yep, this is now, can I jump in here, Georgia? Because I had a question about the Appendix A. Is that what you're voting on now?
Appendix A, are you talking about Appendix A of the warrant?
Yes, Article 3.
Correct. That is what they are voting on right now.
Okay, can I make I want to get a clarification. So I asked Mr. Henry about this on Tuesday when he presented this information to the selectmen, and that I have Section 9. It talks about notices and public hearings.
I'm going to pull it up on my screen so everyone else can see, if you just give me a second.
Sure.
So, and Matt, you may be looking at the red line version, which I don't have on this screen, but so you're on Section 9.
Section 9 and subsection 6. So while you're pulling that up, I'll just kind of tell you or explain what I'm seeing here. So there's a significant amount of verbiage that's been is going to be eliminated, and it talks about the coordination between the Concom and other boards and departments. For example, it specifies DPW, engineering, planning board, ZBA, Board of Health, building inspector, etc. So we often talk about the coordination between these different groups and how it benefits the final determination, I think. And that verbiage is crossed out and it's eliminated. It talks only about the Concom at this point. Is there a reason for that? See, I think you don't see the crossed out part.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt, I'm trying to pull up the crossed out version, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So what Matt is talking about is what he had said is in our existing bylaw, again, there was a section that talks about coordination with other boards, and it basically says that the Conservation Commission will distribute the application to engineering, building department, fire. I think it lists all the applicable departments in the town. That is, in situations, that is what we do, and we do forward the application when it applies, but that was more of a boilerplate thing, and I'm going to have David step in too, if he wants to touch on it. Not that it was outdated language, we do what that says anyway, and a lot of the information we do provide. The police department, for example, doesn't need to get a copy of every single one of our applications. So it's more of a formality. The way that was written, that process is really outdated. So in removing that, it didn't mean that process doesn't happen. It just means the process is not happening the way it was displayed there. David, did I touch on that correctly?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I mean, I think we'd like to move away from prior referral and the bylaws in general, especially since we my office staffs so many of the boards and commissions that generally all the town's divisional staff are seeing everything that we have anyway. So like I said, I didn't have much to add to that there other than that. A lot of sections of our existing bylaws have multiple instances of prior referral to other places, when really the bylaw should talk more about what the commission is actually doing, as it's the commission's bylaw.
Okay, so maybe I can just paraphrase and you can tell me if I'm on the right track. So the way it's written currently, it sounds like bureaucracy, where it actually requires you to share this application with all these different areas, these different groups, where it's actually cumbersome and not actually, it doesn't actually add benefit in a lot of cases. So going forward, you'll identify which, like you needed to discuss it with the ZBA. You would go ahead and do that anyway?
So I think, again, I guess I'll go back to, you're not entirely wrong, Mr. Duggan. Thank you for your comment. I think what we're looking at is the ZBA as another governing board is a different thing from the staff reviewing it. So generally in Massachusetts, the commission can't say really 100%, we're just going to wait on this until somebody else does something, meaning another board and commission. So you've applied to the commission, the applicant has the right essentially to have the commission look at and decide on that application. At the staff review level, so the building department staff's the ZBA, in this instance, they would get a copy, they can comment on it if they'd like to, and or update their board that they staff on what's going on, but we can't necessarily say, we got to send this to the planning board before we take a look at it, or the zoning board, or something like that.
Okay. The reason I point it out is because it sometimes there seems to be a disconnect from my perspective, and we don't want to see that, right? We want to see a collaborative effort from these different groups. So that's why I bring it up. That's all. All right. Thanks for the opportunity to make comment.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. So, Peter, I think let me pull my PowerPoint back up, but I think we were talking about the bylaw changes and wrapping that up. So I'll pass that back off to you.
So, everyone, instead of polling everyone one by one, I'm just going to say, are we comfortable with the bylaw changes that Georgia and David are proposing for town meeting? Because if they are, we're going to make a motion that we just send an affirmation to the Board of Selectmen stating as much.
Are you polling or?
I just said, everyone is unmuted, so if someone has an objection, just voice it now. Otherwise, we'll proceed with making a motion.
Okay.
Okay, so hearing none. So if someone can make a motion that we recommend to the town meeting that we as a board are in favor of the changes to the general bylaw, chapter 26, the wetlands bylaw as presented.
I make a motion that we forward a recommendation as to the changes to the bylaw, the Concom bylaw, the Conservation Commission bylaw, as a favorable recommendation to the changes.
Okay. Okay. So just as a matter of the logistics, Georgia and Dave are going to formulate a letter to the Board of Selectmen, just informing them that we have made a favorable recommendation on these changes. So now we're going to actually vote on it. So I'm going to poll. Actually, before we do that, do we have to close this hearing, Georgia?
Yes, and once we've gotten input from the public, which we can ask again.
Okay, well, why don't we ask again? If there's is there any more input from the public? Dave?
No emails.
Is there any phone calls?
No phone calls.
And Matthew Duggan has made his comments. Okay, so the motions are made and it's been seconded, so I'm going to poll the members to we vote in the affirmative. Vanessa?
Yes.
Mike Splain,
Aye.
Ann McGill,
Yes.
and Peter Wilson. Yes. Okay, now the second is at the last meeting, we had a pretty lengthy discussion over the quote-unquote cluster bylaw changes. Does everyone recall that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in the packet, there was a letter from me, but just representing the board, saying that we recommend that, we are in favor of those changes.
Mm-hmm.
Did everyone get a chance to review that letter?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess if someone can make a motion that the chair sends this letter to the Board of Selectmen just to be entered into the record for the town meeting. I don't think it's going to be presented to the town meeting, but just be entered into the record. If someone can make a motion to that, we will proceed from there.
Peter, just to clarify, it's going to the planning board.
Oh, you're
Just
right.
for
I'm
the
sorry.
clarity of the vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Conservation Commission sends a supportive letter regarding the cluster bylaw to the planning board.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, let me pull the members. Vanessa, are you in favor?
Yes.
Mike, are you in favor?
In favor, aye.
Ann, are you in favor?
Yes, I am.
And Peter, I am in favor as well. Okay, I think that is all of our business on the bylaw changes. Is that right, Georgia? You're muted, Georgia.
You're muted.
Sorry, guys.
The host isn't supposed to do that.
No. I got a lot of screens going on. Yes, that is all for the bylaw, and I was going to jump into a little bit more of the regs, if that's all right with everyone. Okay, great. So we actually... Wonderful. So just a recap, we've already really jumped into our details for the 35 and the 50, and I've added... And we have talked about coastal docks and piers, which we'll chat about again next meeting. And I also have added some more details since I sent out the memo. So this wouldn't be for now, for next discussion about vernal pools and isolated wetlands, just how we would regulate those. Some other updates that we'll be getting is going to be to the definition section, the waiver request process, which I'll talk about a little bit, and then our generic filing procedures and application requirements. Our regulations now, I think they're about 20 pages, and 4 or 5 of those is about how to file a notice of intent, how many copies we need. It's pretty outdated, so I've really consolidated it and put a lot of the permits in appendices. So it really says if you're filing an NOI, see Appendix A for everything you have to give us if you're going to submit one. So really just making it a lot more clear and easier for applicants, hence easier for us in our review. So I think the commission, we really kind of already had this conversation organically tonight about our existing no disturb and our no build zones. So what you see on the screen right now is the definition this is pulled straight from our active regulations. So this really describes for any applicant about what can happen in the no build and the no disturb. It's pretty broad, which is not a bad thing in that it's left to interpretation, but that in turn can also be a pretty tough thing when you're interpreting and regulating in front of an applicant. So by us adding a bit more definition about exactly what can happen in these areas, that's what we've done in the regulation update. And the biggest change here is that we've changed it from a 25-35 to a 35-50. So there's a lot of words on the screen here, but to break it down, what's allowed in the 35 is really more it's what's prohibited. So really leave it alone. If it's in the 35, don't touch it. If it's natural grass, leave it alone. If it's trees, it should not be touched. It should be left in its natural vegetative state. And if you do want to work within that area, you need a waiver. And Peter had kind of mentioned, this is that 10%. So if you do receive a waiver to work within the 35, you can only take up a total of 10% of the whole entire area.
That's new then, Georgia, right?
Yes, this is not, these are all new to these are proposed
Okay.
changes. And it's, yeah.
I was just going to ask, so it says we can issue a waiver to allow work within the no disturb, and then it said with the waiver no more 10%. So it's hard and fast. Even with we can't grant a waiver for disturbance more than 10%. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Exactly. So if someone came in and said, all right, I want a waiver, I want to alter 20% of my no disturb zone, it's outright prohibited. There's no venue to hence go forth again and ask, well, maybe I'll give you this and I can alter more than 10%. It's a hard stop. That's what staff is suggesting.
I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Makes our job a little simpler.
Yes, it does. Sorry, I
Yeah,
keep
we don't have to have the debate every single time.
Yes,
Be told how to think.
yes. And that way people will know there really is no option outside of that. So asking for it isn't really an option. So then in the 50 no build, similar to what we have now in our no build, but we make it out. Sorry, it's hard. I can hear myself in the other. So we don't allow structures of any kind, and structures that require a building permit, and structures that don't require a building permit, such as pools, decks, patios, driveways. Really, again, additions, those types of things. And what we do allow by right, what we're suggesting is, like it says here, swing sets, lawn furniture, that type of stuff. And similar to the 35, if you do want to work in the 50-foot no build, you can only alter 20% of that with a waiver. So all this being said, Peter, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, just what Vanessa touched on earlier. Do we want to include the walls and what was the other fences?
Fences, yeah.
That's a great point. So I'll add that.
And just speaking to my own personal having pulled building permits, I thought you had to pull a building permit to build a deck or a pool. I know I did.
That's a good point. And it may be outdated, this term, or a loose term. I think, and you even need a building permit for above ground pool, I'm assuming now too, so.
Right, because, well, the wiring is very important for a pool. So I think that, you have to have as part of that, you have to have the electricians sign off. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll modernize that. I'll make that a.
Research that, because I think we do need building permits for those.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll add those two.
And a shed.
It's true. All of these don't apply anymore, well, without a permit, but.
Some sheds here in town, just to clarify, sorry, if it's under a certain size, don't need a building permit necessarily.
Okay.
But we can wordsmith that.
Okay. So going to the next screen. So that being said, if you are an applicant and you do, for a model example right now, we'll just say you want to put a shed in the backyard. If you do want to put it in the 50 or the 35 and you are requesting a waiver to alter that 10 or 20%, there are certain requirements you now need to meet. Our existing bylaw basically says you need to request a waiver. There's really no venue in how that should be applied for. So in the update to the regulations, we clarify and really define what you need to provide. So of those things, one is now going to be an application that we're working on. It's going to fill out, you're going to cite exactly what you're asking a waiver for, why, the square foot calculations of that 10 or 20%, the total square footage of your 35 and your 50 no build. So it asks for those fine details that the commission are really going to want to know for them to review. And we're also now going to ask for an alternatives analysis no matter what. So you need to provide evidence that what you're providing can't go anywhere else on the site in a logical or financial alternative. Tonight may have been a good example, or in any case, we see something proposed and there could be an alternative location that the commission thinks could better suit the resource area and the overall project. We now require the applicant to really provide those alternatives from the start and can really portray to the commission why they couldn't do A, B, or C, and why this option in the 50 is the best and only. So really, not that we're making it harder, but we really are trying to show that if you do have to work within those areas, you're providing sufficient evidence as to one, why it's allowed, and two, that it's not negatively affecting the resource area. So we'll also require that on plans. We do receive plans now, but the update in the regulations would require, like I had said, consultants to really highlight those 35 and 50-foot areas and highlight exactly how much is being altered so we can review that a bit better. And what was my next slide? So similar to the cluster bylaw, David made up some great kind of models. This is not one. So to start out, I kind of wanted to show just pretty much an average plan the commission usually sees that is affecting the existing 25 and 35. So this is one we got a couple years ago. You'll see in the bright pink, these are proposed additions that were approved at the time of review. So at this time, there's some substantial things approved within the 25. So the 25 right here is going to be this red line, and the 35 is going to be the green line. So we see that a new portion of an addition was allowed in this proposed pool shed. Looking at this plan now, of course, you think maybe this shed could have been relocated. So if this plan were to be submitted under the new regulations, we would have this applicant asking for two waivers to work within what would be the 35 and the 50. It's a little confusing because this is the 35 and our existing buffers, but with our new buffers, you can see if this was proposed, the applicant would have to provide substantial more information as to why it should be there. Any questions on that? I mean, not to kind of throw out what the commission has been approving in the past, but I think this is a great example of kind of what we're likely to see dip into those restrictive buffers, which mainly is pools, sheds, and additions. Okay. So, and the picture comes up a little blurry, but I hope everyone can see this. So this is a mock-up of a lot in Woodvale. So David had kind of picked one of our R1 lots, and then we have an R3 lot later down to show size difference. So this lot here, what you'll see here, this is the top of the bank of an intermittent stream. And here we have our existing 25-foot buffer. So if they were to apply right now, this is where the 25 would be, and this is the 35. And this is the new 50. So these two new buffer zones, essentially. So what we see here in this application is single-family home, and we'll call this a shed. And what they're proposing under, if the new bylaw were to be adopted, they would be requesting a waiver to put their addition within the 50-foot buffer zone. And under that requirement, if the waiver were issued, they can only alter 20%. So that's what we're showing here. And David, when you calculated this, so that's exactly 20% of this whole area, is that correct?
Yeah, so that white block that you're seeing on the screen is the maximum amount they could ask for under the 50-foot buffer waiver process. So I'm envisioning that's some sort of pool or something like that. I think it ended up being 20 by 14.
Got it.
So just so you're aware what 20% looks like.
And also by providing that 20%, applicants applying, working with consultants, if they're able, they can mark out the actual size of that 50-foot buffer, and they're able to design off that allowable 20%. You know, so if they say, okay, I have X amount of feet in my 50-foot buffer, 20% of that is X, that's how much I have to work with, I'll design around that.
Or at least ask for.
Say that again?
I said, or at least ask for. I mean,
Yeah,
it
sure,
could still be
ask
a
for
waiver.
it. Still be a waiver, yes. Let me preface that. So that was our intent there. And then our next mock-up, I may pass this one to David because it does get a little confusing with the conversion. But so in here, you'll see this is a little different in that the shed or pool, whatever we want this to be, is entirely within the 50. In this scenario, in this application scenario, a portion is in the 35 and in the 50-foot buffer. So here you'll see you're only allowed to alter 10% in the 35-foot buffer. So this is what David's showing here is a full, they've taken up the full 10%. They're using that. And the remainder of that is applied within the 50.
Does that make sense to everybody? So if you're going into the 35-foot buffer, right, is always within the 50-foot. So it's a cumulative effect on what you're asking for. So it's not as though you can ask for a waiver to disturb 20% of the 50-foot buffer area and then 10% of the 35.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It does. It is. David and I kind of had to walk through it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But once you talk it through, it does, as long as you have that cumulative total, then we'll know they won't exceed that allowable amount.
Mm-hmm.
So moving ahead, this is an example on, this is Wenham Street. So this is R3. The lot's a little bit bigger. And the lines are darker here. So what you have, this line right here, well, I think this is was this the top of bank line, David?
That looks like the...
Or is it this one?
That's the top of bank.
Oh, there we go. So this is going to be the start of the wetland resource area. So we have the 50-foot buffer extending all the way out to here. So in this scenario, the applicant's requesting to put a shed within the 50-foot buffer, not within the 35. Wait, oh, sorry. Yeah, not within the 35. So they're requesting to alter up to 20% with their waiver, if the waiver is requested, strictly within the 50. Now, in an alternative scenario, if they wanted to push it back further within a mix of the 35 and the 50, as David said, it's a cumulative impact. So if they're altering within the 50, they're already altering within the 35, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and on this one, just so everyone's aware, with the R3 zoning, if you have a conforming lot, your lot's much larger. So the intent here was to show you a smaller lot and what that would look like on a percentage basis, whereas this lot, it's a bigger lot, and that structure is fairly large. So 20% of the 50-foot buffer in this case is about an 850 square foot structure. So that's more like a barn and less like a shed. If you can think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That helps.
One quick question on these changes.
Yes.
Presuming they're approved at the town meeting, do they go into effect immediately?
These changes are in the regs, Georgia, correct?
Yes.
So these wouldn't be going to town meeting.
Okay, but even with the 35 and the 50, I know I'm getting a little bit off the subject, but I'm just fearful that, people would say, all right, this goes into effect on March 1st. I'm going to get my project in with the 25 and the 35s before that.
There would be a run-on permitting, effectively, is what
Right.
you're getting at. So the way that at least it works for zoning, we can triple check on the general bylaw, but it would go into effect upon a vote pending the approval of the Attorney General. So there's a period where you could be at risk in the unlikely event that the Attorney General rejected the change.
Yeah, okay. But if presuming the Attorney General did approve it, it would be effective on
The day that it was voted.
October 26th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. That's the answer I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions on the models as we go through? I had one more that David had made for another R3 lot. This is up on Robin Hill. It's a little funky bit of a lot in that it's not, the 35 and the 50 don't encompass a ton, but the 50 goes to here. So the 100 encompasses about a large portion of the house. So in this scenario, they've taken up their 20% of the 50-foot buffer. And a small minor change you'll see from the next one. They've encompassed a small portion of the 35. So these really just show kind of the scenarios we would have and what the 35 and the 50 looks among different lots, and mainly the lots that we see commonly in front of the commission. I think that
should be it, yeah.
Yeah, those are all the models I had. If anyone had, I know we've thrown a lot out there, and we've actually gotten some great feedback, which we appreciate. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to pass it to you guys.
No, well, I just have a quick question. What will we be needing to approve as far as regulations after the bylaw changes are approved?
Great question. So after the bylaw is, knock on wood, hopefully approved by town meeting on the 26th, our meeting following that is going to be November 12th, which I'm realizing now is a holiday. Well, no, sorry, the day before that is. So November 12th is when we would hope that the commission would adopt the new set of regulations. So between last meeting, this meeting, and the next meeting, I've been providing those new updated regulation sections each week. So by the meeting following town meeting, we're hoping that the board would be ready to adopt those, and that would be done at a public hearing at the commission's meeting.
Okay. Now we only have one meeting in November, right? So we're risking having a mega agenda that night.
That is correct.
Okay.
Not necessarily. I mean, we do have a pretty lengthy agenda on the 22nd, but we haven't received any applications for the meeting following.
Which would be the 14th, right? Or the 12th?
The 12th, November 12th, correct.
Okay. All right, I'm just saying that, there's a risk there, but we'll have to see just where we're at. Okay.
It also looks like December is going to be a one meeting month. The fourth Thursday is the 24th.
Yeah.
Yes, so we won't be meeting on Christmas.
That's Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. Wouldn't make you guys do that.
Ho, 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 yeah.
No.
Wow, humbug. Okay, are we all set then?
Yes, that was all I had for regulations, and the next sections I'll be putting in the memo for the next meeting.
Okay, good. All right, good job, Georgia.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, if someone wants to make a motion that we adjourn, I certainly would entertain that.
I'll make a motion that the October 8th meeting of the Conservation Commission be adjourned.
Is there a second? Well, Mike turns off his light, so I guess Is there a second?
Second.
I second that.
Okay, let's poll the members. Vanessa?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Ann?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, good job tonight, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Good night, Georgia. Good night,
Georgia,
David.
quick question before we